stole his first term as president. These absolute liars who run around trying to act like they're the protectors of democracy completely ruined it, tried to undermine it at every turn and at the highest levels with lies, with out and out lies that were really serious, and changed foreign policy and changed the course of history in this country in Trump's presidency. And there must be accountability. There has to be actual criminal accountability for those who lied. And I can't wait to see this administration do it.
You know, Megyn Kelly is absolutely right. There must be a severe set of consequences for the actions of these quote-unquote politicians. They all scream, no one's above the law, until they become the prey.
I'm going to go to the next topic here, which is Adam's top topic, talking about Obama saying every man needs a gay friend. So Obama goes on his wife's podcast, okay? And they're sitting there having this conversation, and it opens, they covered a lot of different things. Right off the bat, they talked about the divorce. Hey, aren't we supposed to be getting a divorce and all this stuff? Just tell me if this seems like they woke up together in the same bed this morning, the last week, the last month, the last 90 days, or if they live in two different places. Just watch this real quick. Go ahead, Rob.
Wait, you guys like each other?
Oh, yeah, really? Huh?
That's
that rumor.
Yeah, slap that hand.
My husband, y'all.
Barack Obama has long lived off the myth of being untouchable, the polished figure who could do no wrong, a president wrapped in charisma and sold as a generational savior. But when Megyn Kelly and Patrick Bet-David step in, that shiny armor shatters like glass. They peel back the layers of charm and rhetoric, exposing the cracks in his legacy, wars prolonged, promises abandoned, and a trail of contradictions that no smile or speech can cover up.
So here is Trump just now. He was just caught on camera saying, "Oh, we'll play both of them in succession." Let her rip.
That you should be talking about is they caught President Obama absolutely cold. Tulsi Gabbard. What they did to this country in 2016, starting in 2016, but going up to 2020 in the election. They tried to rig the election, and they got caught. And there should be very severe.
Today, the great Barack Obama, the hero of the left, the hero of the Democratic Party, the man who gets up and speaks, says, oh my God, Black Jesus is in the house today, right? He goes and campaigns, and this is the worst loss of his career, my opinion. This is what I think. Worst loss of his, I think the worst night of his life was November 5th, November 6th, midnight.
Barack Obama once mastered the art of being everything to everyone. He was the political chameleon, able to slide into any crowd and deliver a message that left people convinced he understood them personally. But when Megyn Kelly and Patrick Bet-David take a closer look, the illusion collapses. The speeches that once felt electric now sound like recycled sales pitches. The promises that once carried the weight of history look flimsy in hindsight. Obama built an image of progress, but it was mostly progress in branding, not substance.
Let's cherish the moment. Barack Obama sitting like that. Where is his junk? It has to be mushed and mashed. That's what you interrupted Tom for? He's talking about his marriage?
Tom was saying something about the challenge of marriage, but listen, you know who else is like that? Gavin Newsom.
Oh, hardcore.
They sit like that. That takes heart. That's
hurt.
Yeah.
Kelly starts by slicing through the glossy media protection Obama still enjoys. For years, he's been treated as the untouchable golden boy of American politics, shielded from the same scrutiny others get blasted with. She points out how he carefully crafted his reputation as a visionary while quietly expanding the very systems he promised to dismantle. Guantanamo Bay, still open, the wars in the Middle East, dragged out longer, the surveillance state, grown into a monster under his watch. All the while, Obama's defenders sold the narrative that he was a reformer. Kelly makes it clear, that's not reform, that's repackaged stagnation with a smile.
I know, because when we aren't, folks think we're divorced.
Look, these are the kinds of things that I just miss, right? So I don't even know this stuff's going on. Right. And then somebody will mention it to me, and I'm not.
People think that they're on the outs because they're not always in the same room together, Maureen. That's what she would like people to believe. Like, she had, one or two public appearances without him, and that's what led to the divorce.
Bet-David doesn't just stop at policy, he digs into the psychology of Obama's brand. He dissects how Obama's greatest skill wasn't governance, but performance. He knew how to pause, how to drop his voice at the right time, how to sell the same speech 10 different ways until it sounded profound. It was less about leading and more about captivating. And people bought it. Bet David points out that while Americans were dazzled by the performance, the actual scorecard told a different story. Rising debt, division that deepened, and a foreign policy that left the world more unstable than when he entered office.
He does not look good. He does not look confident. He looks weak. He looks like he's having a hard time giving his argument to Charlemagne, like he's trying to defend, but he can't. How did you go from, well, at least I will go down as a president, and that whole mic drop on Fallon or Kimmel, whichever one it was. And then it's like, well, there's a guy in here who believes, and, it's at the dinner. I don't know if you guys remember that whole speech.
Oh, yeah.
You will never be in the White House, and then boom, he gets the White House.
Together, they torched the idea that Obama was some kind of revolutionary. Kelly reminds everyone of his campaign mantra, hope and change, but then stacks up the reality. The same Wall Street bailouts, the same entrenched political elites, and the same revolving door between government and big money. If anything, Obama perfected the art of making continuity look like transformation. He didn't drain the swamp, he gave it a fresh coat of paint and convinced half the country they were living in a new era.
It's amazing. Every word she says about Barack Obama is negative. I can't think of her sitting there just waxing poetic about him, complimenting, he's brilliant, he's a great dad, he was the greatest president, whatever a normal wife of Barack Obama would say. Every time she opines, it's something that reflects poorly on him, how he's insensitive, how he's not a talker, how he doesn't know how to relate.
Bet David adds another layer by pointing to Obama's obsession with legacy. He argues that Obama always seemed more concerned with how history would view him than with actually doing the hard, messy work of change. Every move felt curated for future biographies, not present results. It explains why he avoided risk, why his presidency often looked like a balancing act designed to preserve his personal brand rather than challenge the entrenched powers he campaigned against. That obsession with image might have kept his reputation intact among loyalists, but it also meant missed opportunities that future generations are left to pay for. Kelly goes further, targeting the selective memory that keeps Obama on a pedestal. She rattles off the scandals that were brushed aside, because the media acted like his personal PR team. For Kelly, the real scandal isn't just Obama's actions, but the way an entire ecosystem conspired to protect his image. That's not journalism, that's worship.
Michelle Obama slammed for whining about costs in the White House. Okay. I don't know if you guys have seen this or not. This is her speaking with, is this the diaries of a CEO, right? So, Rob, if you can play this clip, this is her talking about how expensive it was to live in the White House. Go for it.
It's expensive to live in the White House.
Yeah.
As many people don't know. I mean, much is not covered. You're paying for every food, every bit of food that you eat. You're not paying for housing and the staff in it, but everything, even travel. If you're not traveling with the president, if your kids are coming on a Bright Star, which is the First Lady's plane, we had to pay.
Bet David then hammers the economic contradictions. Obama framed himself as a champion of the middle class, but under his administration, wealth inequality ballooned. Wall Street recovered beautifully after the financial crisis, so beautifully that bankers handed themselves record bonuses, while ordinary Americans struggled for years. Obama talked about fighting for the little guy, but his policies often favored the big guys, the corporations and lobbyists with the deepest pockets. Bet David highlights how this hypocrisy is rarely addressed because people are still clinging to the fairy tale version of his presidency. Kelly pivots to foreign policy, and here's where the myth really implodes. Libya, reduced to rubble. Syria, a humanitarian nightmare. Afghanistan, a war that dragged on until the next president pulled the plug. Kelly notes the irony. A Peace Prize winner who left behind a legacy of endless conflict.
Do you know, in 2019, a report was done that not one terrorist was allowed in. Now, I think it's fairly wrong because it's, I want to take credit for it. It was my year.
Have you seen the terrorist stat?
Thousands.
Rob, pull up the clip with, not this one, the other one, Rob, because you like the charts. I think you're going to love this chart. So this is the chart. I don't know if you've seen this or not. So this is the terrorist attacks, deaths, and injuries based on different presidents being there. If you go to 2008 to 2016, that's the Barack Obama era. Look what he did. He produced more terrorist attacks during his era. 16, you get elected. Look what happens.
Kelly circles back to how Obama's defenders frame his failures. They blame Congress, blame the system, blame anyone except Obama himself. But leadership isn't about excuses. It's about results. And if your entire argument for greatness is that you looked good while failing, then you weren't a great leader. You were a great actor. Bet David insists that this is Obama's legacy, not transformation, not revolution, but performance. A presidency defined by optics over outcomes. The roast cuts deeper when Kelly turns to Obama's relationship with race in politics. He positioned himself as the figure who would heal America's racial divide. Yet by the end of his presidency, tensions were worse, not better. Cities burned, trust eroded, and communities felt abandoned. Instead of uniting, Obama often leaned into division, delivering speeches that sounded lofty but offered little in the way of solutions. Kelly makes the point that a uniter doesn't leave behind more polarization than they started with, and that the reality of Obama's tenure doesn't match the narrative of his legend. Bette David wraps that point into a broader theme, the gap between narrative and reality. It's like remembering a great concert but forgetting the fact that the album itself was terrible. The vibe overshadowed the substance.
At this moment, go back to that day 10 years ago, what I think binds it together, all these different strands, case upholding healthcare, a case declaring same-sex marriage part of our constitutional protections, of mourning. I think what pulls it all together is that no one person did any of that.
So he's sitting around on a June Thursday thinking about himself and his glory days. And to your point, Smug, I'm starting to warm up to Michelle Obama's POV. I feel like
Kelly dismantled the shield of nostalgia that keeps Obama safe from scrutiny. They show that behind the polished speeches and the media adoration lies a record filled with contradictions, failures, and half measures. They don't just criticize his policies, they expose the machinery of myth-making that turned Obama into something larger than life. And once you strip away the myth, what's left is a politician who promised the world, delivered far less, and left his successors to clean up the mess. By the time they're done, the glow of Obama's reputation looks more like stage lighting. Bright, flattering, but ultimately artificial. Kelly and Bette David don't leave room for nostalgia or excuses. Obama wasn't some groundbreaking visionary. He was the same old Washington machine packaged with better marketing. Megyn Kelly makes that clear when she lays out how his Hope and Change brand was nothing more than a rebranded Washington slogan with a Spotify playlist. It wasn't a transformation, it was a presentation, a slick suit, a smoother cadence, and a cult of personality built on smoke and mirrors.
more fuel on the fire that there's a potential, maybe a divorce or some sort of rockiness going on in the Obamas relationship. They both posted these mirrored, very choreographed Valentine's Day messages on X, but he was just seen at an LA, the basketball team, the Clippers, thank you, game without her. And then on Tuesday, he was spotted eating out at a fancy dinner in Sherman Oaks with both daughters, Malia and Sasha, but again, no Michelle, according to
Patrick Bet David adds the knife twist by showing how that cult wasn't just harmless, it was weaponized. He digs into how Obama positioned himself as the anti-politician, but ended up using the exact same tools as the insiders he promised to beat. From bailing out Wall Street while Main Street crumbled, to cashing in on book deals and speaking gigs after leaving office, Obama followed the swamp's blueprint to the letter. The difference was, he made people feel good while doing it, like a magician distracting the crowd with fireworks while emptying their wallets. And then comes the foreign policy wreckage. This is where Obama's halo slips the fastest. Kelly and Bet David don't let him off the hook for Libya. What was once sold as a humanitarian mission descended into chaos, turning a functioning state into a terrorist playground. Under Obama, the U.S. didn't pull back from war. It perfected the art of killing from a distance, all while maintaining the illusion of peace.
What came from the fact that I thought he could win. Because maybe way in the back of my mind, I was hoping that maybe he wouldn't, that this would be the last thing he would do. But I knew he had it in him to make this happen.
So, what are you thinking when you're giving this message? Like, what are you thinking in your mind? Because let's do data. Rob, can you type in Obama's net worth in 2007? What was Obama in 2007? 1.2 million, 1.3 million. Okay, so their net worth is, let's write this down. This is pre-White House. Their collective net worth was 1.3 million. Can you go to where their net worth was in 2016 when they're done being presidents? Okay, 2016. So their net worth, as expensive as it was, they went from being 1.3 million.
Megyn Kelly digs into the domestic side where the failures are just as glaring. The Affordable Care Act was supposed to be the crown jewel, but instead became a political football riddled with broken promises. Remember when he swore you could keep your doctor, keep your plan? Kelly dismantles that fairy tale, pointing out that millions saw premiums rise and coverage shrink. What was framed as progress ended up being another government boondoggle that made the insurance companies richer. And yet, the media crowned him a reformer, ignoring the fact that his signature policy was more patchwork than progress. Bet David ties it all back to the culture war. He explains how Obama's real legacy wasn't policy, it was division. He didn't heal America's racial wounds, he deepened them. And here's where Kelly and Bet David tag team their demolition. They point out that the media treated Obama like royalty, shielding him from scrutiny, celebrating his every move, and framing every criticism as racism or paranoia.
Speaking of Barack Obama, he decided to drop a post on X today, and I thought, okay, maybe in the wake of the Pete Hegseth presser, he's going to say something like, no matter how you feel about the Iranian strike, hats off to our, boys in blue, our guys in the bombers. He went a different way. This is what it was.
Curious how you're thinking about this eulogy specifically in the moment and all the tensions that you just brought out.
I didn't even want to talk. I was so mad. Part of the reason I think I ended up having anything to say at that moment was when I heard some of the victims' families forgive the shooter. And I thought, all right, let's see if maybe this is a way America.
That bubble of protection allowed Obama to skate through 2 terms without ever truly being held accountable. But strip away the protection, the lighting, and the carefully staged photo ops, and you're left with the uncomfortable realization that his presidency was heavy on symbolism and light on substance. Even his so-called post-presidency activism gets roasted. Bet David highlights how Obama positioned himself as a mentor of the next generation, but mostly focused on producing documentaries for Netflix and building a $500 million library complex that looks more like a monument to himself than a resource for the public. Kelly digs in on how he stayed silent during moments of national crisis under President Trump, but couldn't resist swooping in for carefully timed statements designed to make him look like the adult in the room. It wasn't leadership, it was brand management, and that's the nail in the coffin. Obama wasn't just a politician, he was a brand. Suddenly, the myth of Obama as the untouchable statesman looks like what it always was, a polished salesman who could charm a nation but never deliver the goods. By the end of their takedown, Obama isn't standing tall. He's standing exposed, stripped of the aura that kept him insulated for years. And that's the ultimate destruction, when the crowd stops seeing a legend and starts seeing a politician who played the game better than most, but still played it the same way. The mask is off, the illusion is gone, and what remains is a reminder that charisma doesn't equal greatness, and speeches don't equal change.